I was just shooting out cold emails. I
Yeah.
probably sent out 30 to 40 emails at the end of my senior year when I was looking to graduate soon. And I think I got 3 responses. We're just regular people, you know? And so it comes down to just like with athletes, the relationships. Even now, I'm wearing a Penn State sweatshirt, and every week, I kid you not, like my biggest thing is gratitude, right? I was very fortunate to get to FAU because I learned from one of
Yeah.
my biggest mentors, in addition to Coach Jackson, and that's Joey Garasio. These guys came to college to play football. They don't always like to train.
This goes to anybody out there. Whether you like your job or you don't like your job, you still have to show up at
Again, it's crazy because you never know who's watching or who's around.
cream of the crop, SEC football, Death Valley. Like, what was that feeling like?
It's very surreal, you know. Again, similar feeling I had at Florida.
I like to ask everybody this question is, what does faith mean to you and your journey over your career and where you're currently at?
It's everything, man. It's like, you know, like especially as football players, right? Like we love to say it's, you know, faith, family, football. But for so many years of my life, you know, I might have said that, but I never really lived by it or acted on it. I'd like to say one more thing before we part is kind of like you said, if there's anybody who has like a dream, a mission, or a vision, like you have to be delusional because when you're in the early parts of it, no one's going to believe in that but you.
Welcome back to another episode of Between the Reps. I'm your host, Granger, and I'm excited to bring you guys episode 15. We are in a new space, moved the podcast studio to the basement. It's going to give me a lot more flexibility from doing it in our living room table. Got the desk down. New setup. I'm excited for it. Excited to continue to progress and improve the quality of this podcast as we go forward through the rest of this year and in the future. So without further ado, today's guest, Shawn Facione, currently the assistant strength and conditioning coach at Penn State University, especially working with the football team. He was most recently at LSU for 5 years, and I'm really excited to bring you guys this conversation today. We dig into some things that really are going to help young athletes, young coaches on their path to compete at the highest level. And whether you are trying to decide what your future may be, there's going to be adversity. There's going to be things that come through your life that not only affect the path that you're on, but it also is going to show you maybe something you never looked at before. And today's conversation, I think, just gives a big picture of how to continuously progress forward and go into a situation with the most positive mindset. I know sometimes we take for granted on the things that we have and the way that we want to live our life might not go the way that we have planned. So I'm excited for this conversation, dig into a little more about Shawn and his journey to coaching at one of the highest levels here in the country, Power 4, being in the SEC, the Big Ten, what that looks like and how to develop these athletes. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. And again, please give us a follow, subscribe, share it with your friends if this podcast has helped you in any way. I'm excited to continue to bring episodes and really just enhance the version and product that I'm putting out there for you guys. I'm going to continue to do my due diligence. If you have any suggestions on guests that you would want to hear from, if you want to hear certain topics, please reach out to me. Shoot me a DM, send me an email. I'll link all of my socials and email in the description. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode of Between the Reps, and I will talk to you real soon. Yeah, man. So just want to get to know you and kind of your journey and story. Again, Shawn played football at Capital. We played against each other for 2 years. I think I was at Muscatine for 2 years, and kind of you were on the defensive side of the ball. Linebacker. Yep. And I tight end. So definitely went against each other quite a few times.
No doubt.
I think you had a pretty good hit on me up there at Capital. Probably would have been our junior year, I believe, out in the flat. You made a really good hit. And then I think I stayed in Capital in Columbus that night, and then I had to hear all about it from my buddies because that's kind of how we knew each other. But yeah, man, how you feeling? How's summer going? How's training going with the athletes, and kind of what's that look like right now, your schedule?
Yeah, no, feeling good. Training's going great. Again, our summer block is kind of getting shorter year by year, different places I've been, just kind of the nature of it. It's like right now we have 8 to 9 weeks of just summer training. It's pretty grueling, if you will. So like right now, earlier today, actually we had 3 lift groups. A typical day for me on like a Monday, for example, would be a lift group from 7 to 9. And the first hour of that is field training,
Okay.
second hour is weight training. And then a group from 9 to 11, same thing. First hour is field training, that second hour is weight training. Then the third group, right, is going to be 11 to 1 p.m. Same thing, man. On the field for, an hour, then the weight room for an hour. And if you look at that alone, it's 6 hours straight, back to back of three coaching groups.
Yeah. And so are you coaching all 3 sessions for all 3 groups? Or how does that kind of work with your team and kind of where you've been now currently at Penn State? How does that work there? And is it different based on your program, or is it kind of just uniform kind of across the board?
Yeah, so in Division One football, right, the NCAA allows there to be a total of 5 full-time certified strength coaches. So on our staff, I'm one of 5. Now, certain
Okay.
schools, depending on like what conference you're in, based off your resources, you may have a couple extra staff members thrown in there. So, for example, like here at Penn State, we have a full-time sports scientist dedicated to just football. So, in addition to our 5, we have one full-time guy who's also a strength coach who does just sports science. Same thing at a prior spot at LSU. We had 5 full-time strength coaches, one sports scientist. And then in addition to that, if we're fortunate enough to have some high quality interns, we have some extra hands, extra help in the weight room as well.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So what is I know Division 3 at the level we played at has been
Yeah.
completely different. I've been at a couple of Division 1 Power 4 schools to watch like their practices and stuff. So seeing the intensity and the organization, there's so many different parts from the nutrition to individual strength staffs dedicated specifically for football. And that's kind of what I wanted to have you on, is kind of to talk about how you got started in that path. I know you majored in exercise science, correct?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And just wanted to see like what got you interested in strength and conditioning and kind of what path you went on to end up at some of the places you've been at.
Yeah, man. So funny enough that you mentioned how we kind of met in the field. So that same exact play where I hit you in the flat, I believe, I dislocated my shoulder. So like after that play, I was out for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you remember, it was a good hit, good play. You caught the ball, I believe. It might have, whatever, it floated in the air. But on that same play, right, the crowd makes a noise. I get up and my shoulder's hanging out of the socket. So it was a great play initially. On the back end of it, kind of sidelined me for several weeks there. So a combination of like getting hurt in college, not being the best I could have been from a speed and power and strength perspective, is kind of what gravitated me towards exercise science.
Yeah.
Like after my shoulder came out, I was a nursing major prior to that. One of my ATs who was helping me kind of do some rehab and some stuff in the training room. He was like, there's this entire profession, entire major that you can look into if you're interested on it, that's dedicated to making sure athletes can get powerful, faster, more resilient in contact sports. And I kind of just fell in love with that entire idea. So I switched to exercise science. I finished that major for the rest of my duration at Capital. Once I finished at Capital, I kind of just, it's really strange, man. Like you go from a small school, again, undergraduate degree, and you have this like basic foundational knowledge, but you really don't
Yeah.
know where to go from there. So I had some really good academic advisors, a couple coaches just recommended me going online, trying to find some different emails from staff directories. I was just shooting out cold emails. I
Yeah.
probably sent out 30 to 40 emails at the end of my senior year when I was looking to graduate soon. And I think I got 3 responses. One was Michigan, one was Louisville, and then fortunately one was Cincinnati. And so I ended up choosing Cincinnati, a little bit closer, easy to afford my way there as an intern. And I kind
Yeah.
of started there, Olympic sports. So
Okay.
yeah, I got to start with Olympic sports. I worked women's basketball, women's volleyball, women's soccer. I had a chance to work some baseball as well. I was with
Okay.
swim and dive, track, a bunch of different sports that really kind of just got my foot in the door from a college standpoint as a strength coach, and also just opened my eyes to like one, big school level with resources, and two, like what collegiate strength and conditioning really is. So that was really my first foot in the door at Cincinnati, and then from there, I spent about 8, 9 months there. Some of the coaches I worked for at the time said I was doing a good job, but they highly recommended me to go somewhere else again to see different things, to work with different sports. And so from there, I went to Ole Miss. When I was at Ole Miss, same thing. I kind of started with the Olympic sports side of things. Went to Ole Miss originally as a baseball strength intern. That ended up,
Okay.
allowing me the opportunity to get into softball as well. I did some women's soccer there, just very, very brief. But my main things at Ole Miss initially were baseball, cheer actually, so like their spirit team. And then
Okay.
towards the back end of that, the last 3 months, I was fortunate enough to get my foot in the door with football. And football
Awesome.
was a huge kind of game changer for me.
Yeah. So what year Ole Miss would that have been? So probably you graduated 19, right?
That's 17.
17.
Yep,
Okay. So yeah,
17.
you're a year older than me.
Okay.
So that would have been, trying to think, who was the head coach of football down there when you were there?
At Ole Miss at the time, it was Matt Luke.
Matt Luke.
So he
Okay.
had came in after
Perfect.
Hugh Freeze. Yeah, but the strength coach I worked under, football-wise, it was, Paul Jackson.
Paul Jackson. Okay. And what's something I think from Coach Jackson that you took from kind of your first stop at a big time program on how they ran it? Like, what's one thing you took from him that maybe you implement today, or just kind of a lesson that you learned in that process?
Yeah, biggest thing was just the attention to detail and programming. I mean, every single rep, every single setup in the weight room from the equipment standpoint, like that stuff is calculated and planned
Yeah.
months, if not a year in advance. I mean, there was truly like no stone left unturned when it came to preparation from, a simple hour or hour and a half training session into what, had to be done to make sure that it was the best use of our time within that 90 minutes. So I'd say
Yeah.
biggest thing is attention to detail as long as like or as well as the urgency and intensity. Like, you're talking about SEC football, and now I'm Big Ten football, like, every single day matters in terms of preparation. That way, when you get to Saturday, like, every single of your 12 guaranteed games is that much more important and that much more, worth being on the sideline for.
Yeah, especially with all the other things that are going into like big time football right now. You
Yeah,
have so much margin for little margin for error, especially with the playoffs, NIL, now boosters being involved. It's crazy. And
yeah,
it's crazy on the coach's side of like you're really having to forecast, like you said, like a year out and really making sure that, okay, I got 30, 40 guys in the weight room for this time slot. How can we maximize our time to be as efficient as possible? And I think
yeah.
that's just logistics. It's a whole nother aspect to the game. And I'm sure you can speak on more than I can, but I just think that's so interesting, the logistics part of being a strength coach. And because you're with the players probably 90% of the time. You got winter sessions, spring, summer. Like most of the coaches I know, D1, they're not there in July, correct?
Correct, they're gone right
Yeah,
now, yeah.
that's what I thought. So, how has that been, I think, from the player side of things, transitioning into like the coach's role of like, especially at a big time program, how much time goes into that?
Yeah, that's one piece I think people don't really understand is, whenever there's an off season or there's not games being played, like you just mentioned, in the winter and the spring and the summer, people always assume like that's my downtime. Really,
Yeah.
that's like the busiest part for me, right? Like that's
Yeah.
when we're training 4 or 5 to 6 days a week sometimes. But yeah, just understanding that so much goes into it as far as the time that we spend with the guys is insane. Kind of like I mentioned, 6 hours a day was just back to back coaching. That doesn't include the hour before the lift group start. You're kind of talking to guys warming up. The couple hours
Yeah.
afterwards, where they're grabbing lunch and hanging out and doing some mobility stuff, where you're still kind of chopping up with them. So like the relationship piece is everything. We ask these guys to do some of the hardest things, in the world from a training standpoint, from a physical development standpoint. So probably a good idea to make sure that guy, one, trusts you. He knows that you're competent in what you're talking about. And, three, that you're a good dude and have a, high level of character.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I would say from that standpoint too, they can see through kind of the BS. I
Yeah.
think if you come in just like you are in a locker room, it's no different.
Yeah.
You come in, you're trying to be someone you're not. You're trying to approach the game in a different way. I think as a coach, it still applies. That's those same rules as a player. There's probably guys in the locker room that tried to be
Yeah.
the leaders or tried just a completely different person outside of the game of football than they were
Yeah.
inside of it. It's just like really being yourself. I know I was at Otterbein coaching for 2 years, and I felt the best stretches that we had is when we as a coaching staff were the most authentic and being able to actually relate to the players. And I mean, if you didn't understand some of the stuff that some of these players were going through, don't try to act like you did. Just
Yeah.
maybe talk to them a little more and try to build that relationship. And then you can have a better understanding instead of coming into it as I know and I understand, I'm in your shoes. Like kids can see right through that. And I think it's the same as you go and progress on to different levels. But I think it's really cool you spoke on just you guys are around them a ton. So what
Yeah.
has that piece been like of growing those relationships with the players? Has it been different at different spots? what is something I think you could tell kind of the listeners of then your biggest key to building those relationships?
Yeah, so it's definitely been slightly different depending on the school and kind of the area. I don't know what it is about Florida kids, Louisiana kids, Pennsylvania kids, but they are slightly different. Now, like, make no mistake, they are still 18 to 22-year-olds, so I think first and foremost, them understanding like I was in their shoes, not only as a college football player, but like as a college student, like I know what it's like living in high school. You feel like the man, you get to, the big jungle and people are all around you. They're bigger than you, fashion you, you're probably third or fourth on a depth chart. Like, I completely understand all those things. So I think right off rip, like just getting those guys to understand, like, I know what you're going through. I've been there before. Like, that's number one. After that, like kind of what you said, 100% authenticity. Like, if you're fake, like these guys are gonna know that right away. If you're real, if you're honest, but still holding the standard of like your staff and your program, they will respect that so much more. I think it comes down to like, I kind of try to hit on it. Like, trust comes down to three C's, right? Like, it's competence. Like, do you know what you're talking about, right? Character. Are you a good dude? Okay. And then like communication. Like, can you talk to them well? Like, do you care about them? So I think those three C's are going to be huge for anywhere you go. That's kind of been my philosophy, my approach to, different schools I've been at, regardless of, again, if it's a kid in Louisiana, if it's a kid in, Northwest Tennessee, if it's somebody in Mississippi, like those three things. And that was taught to me by a mentor I had when I was at FAU, is if you can learn, master those, but be real to them, like don't kind of put on the front just to get them to trust you and like you, but like really be a good person, then you're
Yeah.
going to have success anywhere you go. But 100%, it's all about the guy, knowing that you care about them, not just you thinking because you're, you know, intellectual or you've been at other schools previously that they're just going to listen to you. Like,
Yeah.
nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. I love that. That right there, that piece, the last thing you just said
Yeah.
is huge. And you can translate to whether you're coaching, whether that's in your job,
Yeah.
if you're a father. I mean, people are going to respond so much more when they know you care. I think
Absolutely.
that's huge. So after Ole Miss, I believe, what was your next stop?
So after Ole Miss, I was still an intern there. I took a graduate assistantship at the
Okay.
University of Tennessee at Martin. So it's a smaller FCS school. It's a part of the University of Tennessee, like school branch or school system. Again, it's a tiny school in like the very northwest most corner of the state. I was only there for about 9 months. But that was a great opportunity. It was like one step up as far as responsibilities go, as far as like being, one step closer to that assistant role that I was kind of striving for. It allowed me to program, for certain sports. It allowed me to see some different sports. Like, for example, at UT Martin, they had a sport called equestrian. I had never known what that was before until I got into a place like that. Okay, essentially, it's a bunch of different horse riding and rodeo type of sports. So that
Okay.
was a different culture shock, but again, it allowed me to learn how to train different types of athletes. So at UT Martin, I assisted with football, I assisted with baseball, and I had responsibilities over equestrian. So that was a super great experience. It was also a cool thing to see. Again, I went from D3 to two D1 schools, and I kind of went down to FCS, because if you're not familiar with what an FCS level school is, they don't always have, the bells and whistles of some of those Power Four teams, but they still have resources, just slightly different. So it kind of allowed me to tap into the bag of like creativity and programming and just kind of
Okay.
what access to for the athletes.
I think that's awesome too, because it
Yeah,
probably helped you as you progressed into the position you're in now. Like you have all the resources in the world at
yeah,
an LSU or a Penn State, SEC, Big Ten program. So learning at a young age, I think too, probably helped you in
yeah,
regards to being a more well-rounded strength coach. I think
100%.
that's pretty cool. So the equestrian, what kind of workouts would they do?
Leg strength, adductor
Yeah.
strength, core, stability, balance. I mean, we definitely, surprisingly, they were pretty powerful athletes. So the equestrian team was females only.
Okay.
And so that was also a great challenge, learning and working and coaching female athletes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that there's like this weird kind of stigma about, males coaching female athletes. Those are some of my favorite to coach in the past. They work extremely hard, they communicate well, and they're super competitive. So that was a great experience as well.
And I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about that same thing. He's a head coach in Cincinnati at a high school there for
Nice.
football, and he does a little personal training on the side. And I was saying the best thing is coaching the female athletes.
Yeah.
They're more responsive to the coaching, I think personally, and I think they have more willingness, especially at that young age, that 18 to like 20, to learn.
Yeah.
Us guys are prideful,
Yep.
kind of got a chip on our shoulders. It's
Yep.
hard sometimes. I know how I was when I was 18. I don't
100%.
want to, I'm not listening to anything you're saying, but you get to a certain point and they're really good athletes when you break it down, and
Yeah.
the strength and power that they can produce and their ability to learn, I think, and attention to detail, I think is a little better than us guys sometimes. So if you could just expand on what the GA process was like, especially from a strength and conditioning side of things,
Yeah.
how was that process?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, GAs and strength and conditioning are extremely competitive. You got to think, right? You go from undergrad into an internship, ideally, if you're fortunate enough to go straight from undergrad to a GA, even better. But just like the number of GAs out there is extremely minimal. And so if you are able to find one, especially one that's like a full tuition coverage one, then 100% I recommend it. But first, yeah, first and foremost, it's just super competitive.
Yeah.
On top of that, right, you have to get into school. Okay, on top of that, you're learning to balance going to class, whether it's online or it is in person with, okay, you have X amount of, training groups that day. You have to stay on top of your schedule. So it's kind of like an added challenge to your academic classwork. But I highly recommend it if possible, first and foremost, so that, future coaches can get their school paid for.
Yeah.
And then secondary, again, it allows you to get that extra added responsibility prior to becoming a full-time assistant because you never really know when you're ready, but a GA definitely puts you, two more steps ahead, on your goal to being ready. Because if you go from an intern to a full-time job, I'm not saying you won't be successful, but there will definitely be challenges along the way. I think a
Yeah.
bunch of those challenges can be, defeated during a great GA spot.
So from the GA perspective in the strength side of thing, I know I've worked with on the football, the actual like coaching side,
Yeah,
position
yeah,
coach. Was there still some of the same like grunt work that you're doing as
yeah,
just I'm going to grab a coach coffee, or I'm running here, I'm making sure bed check, just little things like that that people don't realize that go into even at a small Division 3 level
yeah,
where I was at Otterbein. It's like all the little things that you don't realize that you have to do that eventually you're doing it for a reason.
yeah,
It make sure you're loyal, your attention to detail. Like, I remember breaking down film on, luckily we have had huddle, but
yeah, yeah.
still just the you'd be in there for hours,
I bet.
hours on
Yeah,
end, just
I bet.
breaking down film. And
Yeah,
it's like, dude, I love football, but I don't know if I could do this.
right.
But it taught me so much about patience, and even just in my career now of you really have to work and put the time in
Yeah,
to get ahead and be successful. Because all the coaches that are before you, they did the same exact thing. So
yeah.
I wondered if it was, yeah, the same way from the strength side of things, if it kind of felt like that for you.
Yeah, 100%. I would say as a GA, but also especially as an intern, in this profession. And the shoot, even sometimes, certain full-time spots, there's just kind of, I wouldn't call it grunt work, right? But like everyone has to pay their due to an extent, because
Yeah.
again, these are some of the best jobs in the world. Like I go to work and I wear shorts and t-shirt every day,
Yeah.
so like some of the things that we're able to do, and, we're fortunate enough to, have the privilege to do. It's phenomenal if you take a step back and look at it. But yeah, grunt work is certainly there. Again, as an intern or a GA, when it comes to setting stuff up, sprinting across the weight room or sprinting across campus to, find a guy, see if he's in class, whether it is bed checks, if it's an away game or if it's, camp time or something like that. Those things definitely happen. Like it, it sounds bad, but just like you said, man, it's 100% like you're paying your dues, right? And
Yeah.
every single coach who's in the spot that you want to be in has done something similar, if not far worse. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely say it's getting better, every decade, every half decade, as far as the amount of like kind of BS that has to be done. It's getting better just because the older coaches have been through and they're kind of like taking care of the next generation, to make sure that it is more of a structured curriculum for interns or GA to make sure that they're getting, a certain amount of knowledgeable units in or that they're getting the experiences that will help them for the next step. But 100%, you will have to deal with some of that BS.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think from the GA position and just a couple of those interns, or more so the GA position?
Yeah.
What's one thing you think the biggest thing you learned before you moved on to that next spot?
I would say the interaction with sport coaches, right? Like as an intern, you go from primarily interacting with just the strength staff, maybe some of the people in the nutrition or, dietitian staff, maybe a couple of ATs and that's it. But when you take a step up into that GA role, that's when you are communicating with the head coach, OCs, DCs, position coaches, some of the other GAs even more in depth. That's when, again, you're kind of blending that line of like, this guy's here volunteering versus this guy's like a part of our program. He's an
Yeah.
important piece of the puzzle. We should probably, involve him in some of these decisions, some of these conversations, especially those meetings when it comes to, how guys are doing from a progress standpoint, injuries, travel logistics, all those things like that. Next kind of step up of interaction with sport coaches is so crucial.
Yeah. And when you talk about the communication piece between some of the coaches, whether that's the OC, DC, head coach, the support staff, nutrition, what is that like communication like? Has it been different at different spots you've been at? Are there tensions at times? How does that typically work in regards to from a strength side of things?
Yeah, no, I mean, in the same way that like I'm a strength coach, at the end of the day, they are football coaches. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, we are all coaches. That we coach a sport, a game, or movement in the weight room on the field. So like
Yeah.
with that said, we're just regular people, and so it comes down to just like with athletes, the relationships. Like if you're only talking to a coach about a player, about a drill, or about practice, then you're probably not going to have the most success. But if you're talking to the coach, like how's your family doing? How was Christmas? How was these other things? And that's when you're gonna really have the better relationships, and the better that is, then the better your work life will be. And again, when it comes to talking to sport coaches, early on, I was definitely intimidated, if you will. I'm like, oh crap, like this guy's a DC at, this school, man. Like I've seen his name on TV. I've, seen him scrolling across the bottom ticker. But like
Yeah.
after a while, like I said, you just get to learn that, this guy has a wife and 3 kids, like he's just a normal dude. He's a father, he's a husband, he has goals, he has a life outside of work as well. And I think once you really kind of peel back that front layer of the curtain to realize it's not just someone who has a job, but they're a human being, then that interaction becomes a lot better for you.
Yeah. What was that like your first time you had to kind of talk to a big name, whether that was a DC, a head coach? You said kind of nervous. You have like that imposter. I would have imposter
A
syndrome.
hundred
Like,
percent.
am I supposed to be here?
Yeah,
Like,
100%, man. I mean, I'm from a small town in, Marion, Ohio. Like
yeah,
uh, even now, like I'm wearing a Penn State sweatshirt, and like I was at work this morning, and every week I kid you not, like my biggest thing is gratitude, right? So like I always catch myself reflecting, like I can't believe that I am where I am currently. It truly is a
yeah,
blessing. And so early on, those times where it was, I had to talk to a coach, and I felt like I didn't know enough to be there, or I didn't know crap from the toilet about coaching. That imposter syndrome is absolutely a real thing. I think the more that you do it, right, like the more reps you get, not just from a coaching standpoint, but from talking to people as humans. The more reps you get just from the day to day kind of grind of being there, going through the process of whatever it may be for your program. I think that is what peels back, and that's what kind of eliminates that imposter syndrome. And then too, like every single step or every single year you're doing something, right? Like that adds to your accomplishments, that adds to your achievements. Like that should build you up to where
yeah,
hopefully that gets rid of that imposter syndrome. Like when I was at UT Martin as a GA, I had to remind myself, like, wait, I've been at 2 big schools as an intern, work with some great athletes, I'm messing with coaches, like, I can talk to these guys. The first kind of coach, I think, early on, I was like, oh man, like this is, a big name, was probably when I got to Cincinnati. Their head coach was Luke Fickle, and I didn't work with football at the time, but we shared a weight room. So I would, just super casual morning coach, morning back, stuff like that. But the more in-depth conversations probably came after my GA when I got to FAU, and the head coach
yeah.
was Willie Taggart. Okay.
Okay.
So first and foremost, black head coach, that was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Great human, great person. He had worked at Florida State, worked at Oregon. Like this guy was a big name. So
Yeah.
that was the first coach where, kind of like a shock. Like, oh wow, like I'm working with, someone who's been in the game for a long time and certainly has a big name.
Yeah. So next you moved on to FAU
Yeah.
after
Yep.
UT Martin.
Yep.
So what was that experience like? I know that's a step up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, step up. What was that experience like? Kinda walk us through that and how you, because this would have been your first full-time position,
Yeah.
or did you yep.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
first full-time position. What was that like? Your first experience, you're at a bigger school again, another step up, and now the responsibility has kinda grown and you're kind of in that full-time role.
Man, it was awesome. So I went from a GA at an FCS Division I school. Okay, now I'm an assistant at an FBS Division I school. They're a group of 5 at the time, and like we're playing ball.
Yeah,
We're going against teams that are, Memphis. We're going against some teams that could really play Marshall, Southern Miss. Like these were good football teams.
Yeah.
Not that the other places weren't, but like now I'm in a role where I'm full time and there's a little bit more that matters than the plate every Saturday. But that step up was great. Another big move for me, right? So I moved from Ohio to Mississippi to Tennessee. Okay, now I'm moving down to Florida. Okay, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about Florida except what you see on TV. I'm an Ohio kid, you know. All I know is palm trees and sunshine. I was fortunate that FAU was in a beautiful location, Boca Raton, South Florida. The weather was phenomenal. It was a really, really big challenge for me that year because that was COVID. That was 2020. So you talk about like all the regulations that we had to, keep up with due to the NCAA, due to, the government in general. So there were all the sanitation kind of things you probably heard. They were completely true. I mean, we had, I kid you not, it was like a super soaker full of like Germex and like hand sanitizer. We were spraying down after every single lift group, wiping stuff down. It was insane. Like I can't make this stuff up, man. It was a legit, it was like a modified super soaker with some type of cleaning solution.
That's
Like once one group was done, a coach would go through, spray it down, second coach would come back between every group. It was insane. I was very fortunate to get to FAU because I learned from one of my biggest mentors, in addition to Coach Jackson, and that's Joey Garasio. I learned more in those 13, 14 months with Joey Garasio than I probably did in the previous 4 years, just because of the type
wow.
of coach he was, what he demanded, his urgency, his level of knowledge, extremely, extremely sharp coach,
Okay.
and also just how to handle yourself as a coach, to be full time, to kind of like we're talking about, to interact with sport coaches, to really build long lasting relationships with players, and then to kind of get my gear spinning on like, you know, some of the rabbit holes that you can really fall into with strength and conditioning.
Yeah. And to hit on the COVID thing, that's when I was at Otterbein
Yeah.
too. And even from our level, is probably not as organized and strategic as big time Division 1 football. But yeah, we would have to go get checked
Yeah.
every day. Practices were weird. It was a weird time, man. I can't believe we lived through that,
I'm telling
honestly.
you. Yeah. It's still funny to look back at and laugh about.
It's like, yeah, we were wearing
Yeah.
masks. Like, yeah, it
It was
didn't make any
bad.
sense on the bus. We had masks on. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting right beside this dude. I'm
What
like,
were we talking about?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, this doesn't make any sense. But it was crazy. And it's shows the adversity that you go through
Yeah.
in life and
Yeah.
how to navigate it. And when you're at good programs, you're around good people that are organized, they're detail oriented. It makes things a lot smoother, especially trying to compete at a high level like that.
Yeah.
You spoke on how to carry yourself as a coach from was it Coach Joey?
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess
Garasio.
Garasio,
Joey G. Joey G.
Joey G.
That's it.
How has that helped you now as you've progressed? Was it whether it was at LSU or here at Penn State? How has that helped you become the coach that you are today? I know carrying yourself is so important, especially in your position,
Yep.
because you're forward facing. You're a pillar of the university. You're a face of the university, and especially on these recruiting trips when you're talking to parents and
Yep.
they come into the facilities. How did that shape you into kind of the coach that you are now and progress you on the path that you're on?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, right? Like I'd already been, like you said, forward facing, already been ambitious, determined, hardworking. But like he just added an additional chip on my shoulder from a mentality standpoint, right? Like one of his biggest things was that like a strength coach's job is to make everyone else in the building right. So and that comes from kind of like Coach Jackson. So Coach Joey G also worked for Coach Jackson back in the day. So
Okay.
that was kind of the connection there. And so that stemmed from Coach Jackson. But I worked for Joey longer, so I was able to get some of those nuggets a lot stronger and lot more nuggets at that. But, some of the things he would really instill in us was the mindset from this daily, like if you are not at your best, the players will see through it and they will not be at their best. And so it really kind of makes you like wake up in the morning, put your feet in the ground and know like I have to go not for my future goals or for even for myself, but for what I'm representing. And that is the university, that's the football team, that's the mentality of the football team that we were trying to instill and we were trying to develop. So like if we want our guys to on Saturdays, right, fire up the ball when the ball snapped and essentially move a grown man against his will, there's a certain level of intensity and urgency that comes with that. And so we have to operate in a similar fashion. If I'm lackadaisical and I'm yawning in the weight room or I'm not energized, well, first and foremost, these guys came to college to play football. They don't always like to train. So
Yeah.
I better act like I like training and hopefully they like me and they can get to like me and like training as well. So those are some things that he instilled in us. And again, a lot of that does come from Coach Jackson. Something else that, Coach Joey G instilled in us on the staff there was just to not be the stereotypical meathead. Like, open a book, ask questions, like, dive into things. If you don't know something when someone asks you, then you should do everything in your power in the next 24 hours to find out.
Yeah.
And it really opened my mind as well. It's like, there's so much more that goes into strength and conditioning than just bench press and doing hill sprints, right? Like, people think it's just that simple, and it can be, but there's so much more that goes into it, like anatomy, physiology, like all of these things that we're intentionally trying to provide a stimulus to get a specific adaptation from that. And so breaking down the science piece of that was helpful for me early on in my, career as a full-time coach, really, really pushing me to reach out to dive into certain rabbit holes like sports science, like return to play, like some of the things with like quarterback specific training or specialist training. It just kind of open up my mind, my third eye, if you will,
Yeah.
to some of those other avenues of training that sometimes get overlooked or just very, very misunderstood.
Yeah, like the minute details, especially to hit on like quarterback things. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with quarterback training
I love it.
for some reason. The things that you can do from a standpoint that aren't always just throwing heavy weight around.
Yeah,
The mobility in your shoulders and the explosive movements, even for a quarterback and just their footwork,
yeah,
being off balance, especially with a lot of the guys now, they're throwing off balance, different platforms, being able to move your arm in different angles, get rid of the ball, especially these shorter guys. They have to really find a way to adapt to the situation, especially you want to play big time football and you're 5'11", 6 foot. There's guys that are slinging it, but they're
yeah,
able to, like you said, throw off platform. They're
yep,
able to different arm angles. That to me, that's the sports science side of that is where that starts. And once the kids, I mean, some of these kids in high school are just naturally gifted, but when they get into the weight room and they start really focusing on that skill,
yeah.
I think is so cool. So cool, man. So I could talk about it. I could talk about it all day because
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
that's like my bread and butter. What I didn't play quarterback or anything, but I love just studying the
Yeah,
way that they play because it's exciting. So after the FAU,
yep.
you head to what's the next stop on the
University of Florida.
Florida? Okay, okay. How did you get to U of F?
Yeah, so there was a position open on staff at University of Florida, and again, there's 5 full-time strength coaches, so there's one opening available. The head strength coach there and some of the staff members kind of reach out across the country, right? Ask people, do you have a recommendation? Who do you recommend we call? My name got brought up again by the grace of God and by good fortune of doing a good job at previous places. And so my name got thrown in the pot. Essentially went through, several phone calls, extensive interviews, got the position. Due to COVID, wasn't able to have an on-campus interview. So again, I had to go through several extensive Zoom interviews.
Yeah,
Ended up working out, and I made my way up to Gainesville from Boca Raton. And that was a great experience again because I'd been at Cincinnati, at the time they were American Conference, now they're Big 12. I'd been at Ole Miss, their SEC, and then but those were both as interns. So now I'm getting my first chance to get back to that big P4 football in the SEC as a full-time coach. So the opportunity was phenomenal. I truly like I look back and it's one of those things now where I'm like the route that I've been able to take to this point has been nothing but like predetermined. Like it's awesome, man. And that's why, like, to anyone listening and watching this podcast, that's why it's so important to do a great job wherever you are, right? Like, be where your feet are, because you never
yes,
know what sport coach leaves, remembers you, brings your name up. You never know what strength coach leaves. We're just, the network of coaches gets smaller and smaller every year. Like, the world gets so small, everyone knows each other. So if
yeah,
you do a bad job at one school, then someone will remember that and they probably won't bring your name up. But if you do a
yeah,
pretty damn good job at one school, then that can help you out in the future.
yeah. It's just being visible. Like you said, I try to live by that. Is
Yeah,
being where your
man.
feet are,
Yep.
especially having kids now.
Yeah.
I want to. I just want to be a good example, man, and just no matter what it is I'm doing, whether you and I, this goes to anybody out there, like you said, listening is whether you like your job or you don't like your job, you still have to show up and do a good job because you have no idea the relationships that you're building and the persona that you're putting out to those individuals around you. And you have no
Yep.
idea. You could go to an interview in 5 years and that person that saw you slacking off,
Yeah.
not putting the time in, is the boss now at that job that you really want. So just being self-aware of what you have going on, man, is so important. And it's a testament to where you're at today is the work that you put in, the things that you did, the effort and time that you spent building your reputation. And it's you can lose it faster than you build it.
100%.
Yeah. So it's
100%.
It's crazy to think like how the path that you've went on. So is that just like from networking with different coaches or just really just luck of the draw that you've built that relationship with someone, they go to a new school or that strength coach of that current school is reaching out to, like you said, different
Yeah.
coaches throughout the nation?
Yeah. So again, it's crazy because you never know who's watching or who's around. So the way that it kind of worked was the coaches that I ended up working with at Florida, a couple of them had worked with the head strength coach at Cincinnati when I was there as an intern. But if you remember,
Okay.
I was an intern with the Olympic sports, so I wasn't even working
Yeah.
with football. His name is Brady Collins. He's now currently at Wisconsin with Luke Fickle. He's the
Okay.
head strength coach there. And so he had recommended my name to Nick Savage and Zach Eichenberger. Nick Savage is the head strength coach at Florida at the time. Hey, this guy was awesome with the Olympic staff. Like he's definitely a go-getter. Check him out. And I'd never even worked with football. He just saw me work with the Olympic side, threw my name in, and kind of went from there. Also, the director of Olympic that I worked under at Cincinnati, Kelly Powers at the time, she also had a say in my name going forward. So you never
Okay.
know who's watching you. Like I'd never even worked one session with football. I was always around, stayed late. I was there early. I was hanging out with this football interns, asking them questions. The football strength coach at the time, asking them questions. They saw that I had switched over to football after being Olympic, that first year and a half. They were just threw my name in. And again, I was fortunate enough to end up getting a job after, other people were also up for it. So it worked out.
That's awesome. What is your biggest lesson you learned from Florida?
Biggest lesson from Florida, again, it was my first time as a full-time strength coach at that level, right? Like an intern's different. We kind of talked about like that step to GA and step to FAU or to kind of a smaller assistant role. I think the biggest lesson would be learning how to join a staff that's already together and kind of just help them out in any way you can because they all kind of have their assigned responsibilities, their assigned niches. And so for me was to, get there day one, get up to speed on how they train, get up to speed on how the program operates, like what's the head coach want, what's the head strength coach want. From there, it's like after I help everyone else out with their responsibilities, okay, what am I good at on this staff? How can I add value? That was something that Coach Joey G was always big about is every day, how are you adding value? Whether it's to the equipment staff, whether it's to, the video guy, whether it's to one of your assistants on staff with you, like what are you doing to help those guys have a better chance at success at work? And so for me at Florida was, how can I add value to the staff that's been together for 5, 8 years? Because they had also been together at Mississippi State prior to Florida. So I'm the new guy coming in. I'm young, right? They're trying to help me out.
Yeah.
And so right away, I think the biggest thing was, I kind of helped some injured athletes here and there, the guys that were more acute coming back from injuries. Another thing I did was kind of helped, with some of the intern stuff that they had going on as far as their internship curriculum. I wasn't
Okay.
involved day to day on like, creating the curriculum or sitting down in meetings, but just helping those guys out because, again, I was in their shoes just but 2.5 years prior. So I could kind of give them some advice as well,
Yeah. That's awesome. To just being a resource.
being a
Like
resource.
you never know what's going to do for somebody, especially being in that position. Like you're an intern, you have 1,000 different things coming at you. You're trying to learn, and everything's coming fast. So that was probably a huge help for those kids that were trying to be in your position. So I think just talking as you go through this, that Florida, your next stop would have been LSU.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. What was the biggest thing you noticed from LSU versus all your other stops versus LSU when you first got there?
I'd say so. Florida was somewhat similar, but LSU was just different as far as the general culture around the program, right? Like Florida, you think about Gator, Tim Tebow, like,
Yeah.
Percy Harvin, they had some really, really strong traditions. LSU did too. The thing about LSU is like, that is the big school in the state.
Yeah.
Florida, you have Miami, you have Florida State, you got UCF, but in Louisiana, like LSU is a team. Like, LSU has more pull than the Saints, man. Like it's that serious.
Yeah.
And just, when I first got to Baton Rouge, people are talking about, "Oh, wait till a night came in Death Valley." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Well, I was just in the swamp, so I guess I'll find out." I found out real quick that first year, that was electric. From the band to the fans to they have a live tiger on campus, Mike the Tiger. It's insane. The culture was definitely a huge piece of the state and of the university. I mean, you
Yeah.
talk about the Cajun food, you talk about the people, like they live, breathe, and die for that school. That was a great opportunity. Also, again, looking back, like that's the longest I spent at one university because, like,
Yeah.
up to the point of Florida, I was kind of like working my way up the ladder, right? I was an intern, GA, full time. LSU, I was, blessed with the opportunity to be there for 4 years, and so that's the longest time I spent at one university, and so just seeing, again, the difference between, like, what that school meant to the state, I would say
Yeah.
that was the biggest difference.
Yeah. I think that's awesome how you've kind of gotten to that point. You've worked your way up, like you said, going up the ladder
Yeah,
and just building your network, your knowledge. And now you're at like cream of the crop, SEC football,
yeah,
Death Valley. Like, what was that feeling like? Like you said, the gratitude that you have still to this day.
yeah,
But what was that feeling like? That first game, you walk out there on the field, or the first practice that you go to, and you have some athletes around you, and you're
yeah,
like probably pinching yourself, like I'm here. I'm
yeah.
where I'm supposed to be. Like, what was that feeling like?
Yeah, man, it's very surreal, you know? Again, similar feeling I had at Florida, but, you know, at LSU, it was, just because I was there for 3 additional years than Florida, you know? But, being able to see, again, the athletes that were there when I first got there that were recruited by the previous staff and the athletes that we were able to bring in, like, that was probably the biggest shock was, like, we are bringing in dudes who are 6'8", 320 pounds, and they can run like lightning. Like, it's insane, you know? And so just a different level of true freshman or high school kid that you can bring on the campus for recruiting visits and, you know, eventually sign to join your football team. That's a big difference. Something else that was different is just the humidity, right? I'll give you that. Like they call it the swamp for a reason, or the bayou, excuse me, the bayou for a reason. The humidity is a real thing. I think
Yeah.
I was taking like 3 showers a day just because that's how much you sweat. So that was definitely a thing, bro.
Yeah. I thought it was bad. Was it last week or the week before here in Ohio? It was like 5 a.m. I work out early, and I do track workouts on Thursday. And dude, I'm like, I'm 31 years old. Why am I still doing this? What am I doing? It's too hot out here, man. But no, I couldn't imagine being down south, man. That's awesome just to hear your experiences and your journey. I'm glad we reconnected. I've seen a bunch of your posts in the past couple years, and just just people don't understand how much opportunity is out there.
Yeah,
Like, if you truly put your mind to something, you truly want to go after it, you can really develop a skill and a career in whatever you want.
yeah,
If it's truly what you want to do,
yeah.
that's what you can go after. And I think you're in a testament to it. Like you said, small town Ohio from Marion. I think Marion's smaller than Zanesville, where I'm from.
It could be. Yeah,
And going to a smaller school and just like you said, putting yourself on the line, working your way out there, sending random emails to different support staff,
yeah,
and just making your dream come true. I think I would be pinching myself every day if I was sitting here and I would look down, I got a Penn State sweatshirt on, I'm walking in the gym with shorts and a t-shirt, and I get to coach ball and really help kids make their dreams come true. Is
absolutely.
essentially, I think, is so cool. So now being at Penn State, what's something I know this you were there during the spring, right? Is when you
Yeah,
guys came in,
yep,
correct?
yep.
Okay. So what was that like? The transition between new coaches, you're at a new university back on the East Coast. I know it's probably a lot different. It's colder up here. Spring ball is probably not as fun being down in the South and warm. But what was your first experience, and what can you say about Penn State and the short time that you've been there?
Yeah, man. So again, like we're both from Ohio. So like I grew up watching Big Ten Network, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that was my go-to show. I remember watching the old games from the '90s and like early 2000s. Like I'm up late watching these games just because I love ball. And so
Yeah.
Penn State is one of those universities that not only is the tradition there, right? The brand is there, and the people are there too. So like when we first got here in January, first and foremost, Matt Campbell is the head coach now, guy from Iowa State. He is a phenomenal human being. I mean, he is a true blue Midwest ball coach. I cannot speak enough good things about him. One, because he hired me, and two, because again, I've been working for him now for 7 months, and like everything like positive about him is 100% true. He
Yeah.
cares about players, like truly cares about them. He cares about coaches, and he's doing things the right way. So again, being able to come back 5.5 hours from home now, that's my drive time from State College back to Marion, is a blessing. I'm close to the family. I am back in Big Ten country, and just like you said, still kind of pinch myself. At the same time, like I earned the right to be here, and I'm
Yes.
excited for what we have to come. With that, it's like since we got here in the spring, right? Uh, I kid you not, man. I moved into my house. I was staying in a hotel for the first couple weeks. Like once I moved up here, I moved into my house on a Thursday, and we got that huge snowstorm on like a Sunday. Okay, this was like February.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this was the first time I shoveled snow in like 7 or 8 years. So that was like a quick welcome back to the Midwest or Northeast. And it was kind of nostalgic, but I'm also kind of like every single scoop I took, I'm like, God dang, man, I'm back up here in the snow. But it's been great. The people that Coach Campbell's put around this university, the football team to continue to move in the right direction has been phenomenal. Like the coaches, the sport coaches that we just kind of talked about, like there truly is no ego. It's just a bunch of good dudes, good humans, good fathers. And then the players too, like in a day and age of college football where there's so much guys want to know how much you're going to pay him. They want to know how much playing time they're
Yeah.
going to get. Like he's really done a good job of making it about the team first. I cannot stress that enough. He has made it about, we have one mission, right? And that is to at the end of the season, okay, be able to say that we worked our hardest and that we earned and got what we, should have gotten. And so with that, it's like truly, truly just grateful to be in this position.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's so critical now, especially the day and age where that we're in is it's
Yeah,
me, me, me. I can't even imagine going through the recruiting process nowadays. Like
it's different.
it's got to be so tough.
Yeah,
And especially for coaches, I talked to my buddy, I had him on and he talked about from the high school standpoint of these kids going on these visits and just all the logistics, and it's a business now and
yeah,
it's exciting. It's an exciting time for the players, but also I think it still need to reel in the fact that at the end of the day, it's about the team and how can we be as effective together as possible. And what is our mission at the end of the day? It's to win championships. It's to be great individuals in the community, is to be better men, is to make sure that we're showing up for our responsibilities. I
yeah,
think that is huge in today's age of just teaching these young men and being examples for them. Like you said at the beginning, is the kids will see right through that. So
yeah,
be yourself, be an example, have high character, and they're just going to follow that. I mean, these kids, you think they're not paying attention, but they're watching
yeah,
every little thing you're doing.
yeah,
They're watching every little thing you're doing. And man, I'm excited for Penn State this year.
yeah,
I'm excited because you guys got a lot of Ohio people on the staff,
yeah,
guys that are originally from Ohio.
yep.
I'm excited to see what Coach Campbell does. Even being a biased Ohio State fan,
That's okay.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited to see Penn State compete and for you guys to get after it. And wanted to talk. I see you post like some of your Bible verses every now and
yeah,
then
yeah.
on your story and wanted to hit on that real quick before we got out of here. But I think the biggest thing I like to ask everybody this question is what does faith mean to you and your journey over your career and where you're currently at? What does faith mean to you?
It's everything, man. It's like, like especially as football players, right? Like we love to say it's, faith, family, football. But for so many years of my life, I might have said that, but I never really lived by it or acted on it. It
Yeah.
was always for a long time just family, football, then like in parentheses, faith. And I
Yeah.
think kind of reprioritizing my daily life, whether it's, devotionals, reading, Bible study, just a conversation with people, to just like my actions, has really made a huge difference for me. In no way, shape, or form am I perfect, right? But
Yeah.
again, I serve a perfect God, so I don't need to be. So that's the great thing for us. But what I've been able to do is just really tap back into that because it never left, right? It was just my choice. He never left. And so I'd say about a year and a half ago is really when I started, get back in knee deep into it. It's just been transformational. I've always had, like I said, kind of the mindset. I've, been able to live at, a high level of, character to get to where I am. But just going off of the gratitude that I, live by and adding to that another layer of spirituality has been transformational. And I cannot speak on it enough for anybody who's like in between, anybody who's a passive Christian or passive in their faith, like just go all in, man. It's gonna change your life in ways that you had no idea it could. You're gonna feel a different level of joy each day. And just, if there's someone out there that wants to talk, shoot, hopefully you can share my email. I'm all about talking to people, helping them find their way or kind of give some stories of myself and kind of where I've been. Cause again, moving to different states away from family has been tough, moving and being in a situation, like you said, where maybe there's a imposter syndrome, maybe I'm doubting myself, maybe I get depressed. Like that's very real. Coaching is a gut wrenching profession at times. I've been fired twice, not to my own doing, but just that's the nature of the sport. When a head coach gets fired, everyone else gets let go. So when you're facing those lows in life, like it's good to know like you have a rock or a foundation to stand on when those things come and hit you. And so that's what keeps me going. First and foremost, my feet hit the ground. And I think if people can ideally see the way that I live, whether it's my actions, whether it's the energy I bring, or it's the joy that I exhibit to others, then hopefully they can, wonder why, and I can help show them that, it's Jesus. So
Yeah. Amen, man.
yeah,
That's awesome. That's
appreciate it.
I think mine has been the same and
Yeah,
probably about the same timing.
yeah,
I think right before we had our first daughter, I kind of, you get in college and you're just so busy and you kind of, like you said, he never left you. It was my choosing of to kind of go a different path and kind of figure stuff out for myself. It led me down a wrong path and then just working my way back and just knowing at the end of the day that he was always there.
yep,
He was there supporting me. He's given me two beautiful little girls. He's put me on the path that I'm supposed to be on. He's put you on the path that you were supposed to be on. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, man. And I just hope you keep inspiring people, keep leading these young men to the right direction that they need to go in because the world needs more people like you, needs coaches, needs mentors, needs good, solid men that show up. They're maybe you're not the loudest leader. I never was, but you're an example. You do and lead by example. You say what you're going to do and do what you say, and you just continue to be example. So I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited to continue watching your journey and continue to see you do good things at Penn State and wherever else you go in the future.
absolutely, man. I just want to say thank you. Those were some very kind words. I
Yeah,
appreciate you for that. Again, I'm very happy and proud for where you are too. Like as a father, like that's a huge opportunity, huge role, right? That now you are
appreciate that.
raising, yeah, like you're raising humans for the world, for the future. That's incredible. If I could just say one more thing before we part is kind of like you said, if there's anybody who has like a dream, a mission, or a vision, like you have to be delusional because when you're in the early parts of it, no one's gonna believe in that but you. Like there's times where family may not agree with you, will call you crazy, but if you truly believe, head on that you can do it and kind of be stubborn to a point and you set your mind to it, it can be done.
You have to you hit it right on the head. I was going to
Yeah.
say that you have to
Yeah.
be
You have
delusional.
to be
You
delusional, man.
have you have to like, and it's yeah. There's a box
Yeah.
that you can be in and just you have to stay focused. You can't be aimlessly delusional. But if you are focused and you have a plan on how you're going to get there and you're intentional on what you're doing, you're going to get there. It
Yep.
might not happen in 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, but
Yep.
you're going to get there if you
Yep.
continue to follow the plan and the blueprint and just have an undeniable faith that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. You'll get there. So
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate that, man. I hope you guys have a great rest of your summer.
Yep.
If you're going to be in Ohio here in a few weeks, hit me
Yeah.
up. Maybe we can grab coffee or something.
Absolutely.
I'll shoot you my number on Instagram and then I will put all of your socials. If you text me your email, I'll make sure I put it on here
Perfect.
so anybody can reach out to you. But I
Sounds good, man.
appreciate you, man. And you have a great evening.
Same to you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Yep, no problem. Have a good one. Alrighty. I hope all you guys enjoyed the episode with Shawn and I today. If you have any questions at all on your pursuit or your dreams, if you want to go the college coaching route, whether that's in the strength and conditioning side of things or just being in that space, I will link Shawn's socials and his email in my description so you can reach out to him. If you're struggling with anything, whether that's depression or anything to that nature, reach out to one of us and we will be glad to talk with you and just listen because sometimes you just need an ear. And if this episode was beneficial or has helped anyone in their journey, please share it. Please subscribe. Give us a follow. It only helps the channel grow to reach more individuals. I hope you guys have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you are consuming this episode, and I will see you in the next one.